In this video, I'm looking at finding the volume of concrete required for the footings and slab for this house pictured here. So that's the outskirts of the house, or the perimeter of the house. So if we draw it a little bit bigger, it looks something like this. The footings are going to be dug as a trench around the perimeter of the house, or at the outside of the house. So we have 15 meters here, 5 meters here, 2 meters here, and 10 meters here. So we want to find the volume of the trench. And then our slab will be poured on top of that. And remember, we have our footings going, what do we got in this one? We've got 600 millimeters deep that way. And this way is 400 millimeters wide. So I'm going to look at splitting this trench up into a bunch of smaller rectangular prisms we can calculate. So if we split it up with this one at the top, then we can split it this way, and then if we split it this way. Now the reason I've split it this way is the fact that we can cheat and make our life really easy, because this rectangle, if you look at its length, is going to be exactly the same as this bit and this bit put together, because this bit starts at the very left hand side, then goes to this point, which is then taken over by this one and goes to the very right hand side. So the two of these joined together are going to be exactly the same as this one. So I'm going to call this rectangular prism 1. Then if we have a look at this side here and compare it to this one and this one, these two put together, these two smaller ones, make up the one big one, because this one goes from the bottom of the trench to the top of this trench, but there is this gap that's the width of the trench, but it goes all the way down to the bottom of the plan, whereas this stops one trench width up. So if you think about shifting that up, then it will be exactly the same size. So I'm going to call this section 2. So let's have a look at section 1 first. So we're going to want to find its volume, which is length times width times height. And we're going to have a length of 15 meters. So we're going to have 15. The width of our trench is 400 millimeters. Turn that into meters, and we have 0.4. And the height, or the depth of our trench, is 600 millimeters, which is 0.6 meters. So if we want the volume of our first section, we just multiply these out and we get 3.6 meters cubed. We then have a look at section number 2. Now section number 2 has the problem of the fact that we don't have this full length here. We know that, which I shouldn't have drawn that in there, because this is the 5 meters outside here. And that goes from the bottom all the way up to the top. So that 5 meters is the entire length. But we only want from here up to here. So we need to take off 2 trenches. So the length of section 2 is going to be the 5 meters, and then subtracting off 2 widths of a trench. So 0.4 minus 0.4. And so that gives us that length 2, or the length of section 2 is 4.2 meters. So now we can find the volume of that section, and our volume is again going to be length times width times height. And we're going to look now using our length of 4.2, our width of our trench of 0.4, and our height or depth of our trench of 0.6, and that will give us a new volume, or the volume of part 2 of 1.008 meters cubed. Okay, now if we want to actually get the total volume, so the total volume of the footings, so volume of the footings, then it's just going to be 2 lots of this first section, because we have this one across the top and then these two put together being the same size. So we're going to have 2 lots of the first section, And then we're going to add on 2 lots of the second one, because remember we had this one and then these two, so we're going to have 2 lots of the second part. So the volume of our footings is going to be 2 lots of 3.6, so 2 times 3.6, and 2 lots of the second section, which is 1.008. And then if we add those up, we will get our volume of our footings to be 9.216 meters cubed. So that's how much concrete is required just for the footings. So now let's have a look at the slab itself. So with our slab, we want to fill this entire area up, cover it with a slab 100 millimeters thick. So I'm actually going to look at splitting this up this way, because that gives us this section down here, which is 10 by 2 meters, and then it's going to give us this upper section here, which is going to be 15 meters by 3. And the reason it's 3 is this 5 meter length is from top to bottom, but it's 2 meters up from the bottom is where we're starting, so it's 15 by 3. So I'm going to call this 1, and I'm going to call the 10 by 2 area section 2. So if I have a look at the volume of the first part of my slab, it's going to be length times width times height, and that's 15 times 3 times 0.1, because 100 millimeters is 0.1 meters. So our volume for the first part of my slab is 4.5 meters cubed. Then we'll look at the second part of my slab, which is 10 by 2 by 0.1, and that gives me a volume of the second part of my slab to be 2 meters cubed. So now if I want the volume of my slab, I'm just going to get my volume for part 1, so volume 1, and I'm going to want to add on my volume for part 2. So my volume for part 2. So that will give me my volume for my slab will be 4.5 plus 2, which is going to give us 6.5. So my volume of my slab is 6.5 meters cubed. Okay, so that's got my slab, and this gave me my footings. So now I've asked to do one last thing, and that's find the cost of the concrete for both the footings and the slab if concrete costs $150 per meter cubed. So I'm going to work out the cost down here. So we have our calculation there for the footings and the slab. We want to get our total volume. So the total volume is going to be the volume of the footings, and then we're going to add on the volume of the slab. So we'll have our slab. So this is going to give us a total volume, which is going to be 9.216, and then adding on the volume of our slab of 6.5. So our total volume is going to be 15.716 meters cubed. And then to work out the cost, we're going to have our cost is going to be my total volume times that $150 per meter cubed. So my cost will be 15.716 times 150, which gives me a cost for all of my concrete coming out to being $2,357.40.